How you doing, folks? So today's recipe is nice, simple, an oldie but a goodie. It's a Guinness beef and mushroom pie made with a whole meat pastry. Really, really simple, really, really easy. So to start, we have some chuck beef. That's some brazen beef from Hock's Butchers Market House in Ennistimon. So just a little bit of fat in there that you need for this stewing beef. And in that I have a half a can, so about 250 mils of Guinness Stout, and then about 100 mils of olive oil. To that we're going to add one large onion chopped, and then I've got two different types of mushrooms here. I've got a chestnut mushroom and I've got some Irish button mushrooms as well. On top of that then we have 250 mils, or sorry, a pint, 454 mils, pint of vegetable and beef stock combined. So half and half, 250 mils roughly of each. So all we're going to do, quite simply, now you could braise, or should I say you should or could seal that beef off, but really is unnecessary considering that I've marinated overnight in the Guinness and the olive oil. All that's going to happen is it's just going to stew in the pan. So it's not going to make any difference what way we do this. Into that then, I'm going to get the button mushrooms. And then I'm just going to chop the chestnut mushrooms here. So into the crock pot, I put all those mushrooms, both kinds, and the chopped onions as well. I'm just going to get the stock in now. And I'm also going to pour in some more of the Guinness. So I'm just going to leave about a quarter in that can for later. Now we're just going to turn it up to high. And that's going to go on for about 5 or 6 hours. Lid on, and away you go. Next, we start on our pastry. So into our mixer goes 200 grams of white plain flour, 200 grams of coarse wholemeal flour, 200 grams of real butter, and about a teaspoon of salt. So first in with our flour. It's all our white flour there. Then the wholemeal, the salt, and of course the butter. Now the butter is ice cold. You want it that way. You'll just come out with a better, flakier pastry. Then we just give it a buzz. So when it gets to your breadcrumb stage, we're just going to add a few tablespoons of water. So it's just a little at a time, just to bring it together. So you can see there, it's just cleaning the edges there. So once you get to that nice clumping stage, it's ready to come out. So now I've rolled the pastry into two equal sized flat discs. One will be for the top, obviously, and one for the bottom. And they're just going to go in the fridge until tomorrow. Now at this stage, our beef is heating up nicely. And I'm going to get about 2 tablespoons of honey in there. And the reason for that is it's just going to offset the bitterness of the Guinness, basically. So it's not necessary, but I find that it does help. And then we're just going to give this a quick mix around. So just a quick mix like so. Just flip it over on itself once or twice. And that's it. So as I said, we're going to leave that for about 5 or 6 hours. And then we're going to let it cool down. So we're going to drain it, let it cool down. And then I'll show you what's happening next. So that's been refrigerated overnight. And as you can see, the next day, a little bit of the fat has settled on top, but that's okay, not to worry. So we're just going to strain that right in here. So that's been drained now for about 2 minutes. And you might have a little bit more liquid than you need. But do remember that you're going to need some gravy for when you're serving the pie. So when we're taking the gravy, there's a couple of ways we can do it. We can do it the traditional way with some butter and flour. However, there is someone in my family who can't take a lot of gluten. They can take a little bit. So I'm going to use some cornstarch and a little bit of water just to thicken this up a bit. So we're going to bring it to the boil first. And while that's coming to the boil, I have this quiche in here that I'm going to use for my pie. Anything will do, but this has a bottom that comes away basically. So that's perfect. We're just going to grease that first of all. Then we're going to flour it. So that tin is ready to go. And while we have the flour out, we're just going to roll our pastry now. So a nice floured surface. on with our pastry, just out of the fridge. Just going to flour the top of it. Get our rolling pin. Give that a good flouring as well. I'm going to roll this out to make sure it's a couple of inches past the diameter of this tin. Okay, so that's rolled to about a half centimeter in thickness, as you can see, and it easily covers the diameter of our tin. So I've just let that fall into there basically, and it's overhanging the sides, but I'm going to leave that there for the moment. Now we're just going to roll the top. So the top I've just rolled a little bit thicker, just a slight bit thicker. It doesn't have to be as big as the bottom base in diameter, because as it's only going to fit over the top basically, and the bottom of the tin here is going to fold over on top. So now we're just going to get our meat in there. Don't worry if it's coming over the water level of the tin. That's what you want basically. So I've used about 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, heaped tablespoons, and then a little bit of water. Mix that aside and then made a little paste. And we add it into our stew, and basically it will thicken when it's at boiling point, and that's it, simple as that. If you think you need a little more cornstarch and water, then make the paste aside, then add it in piece by piece. You want it nice and thick though, thicker than you would normally have it. And I'm going to let that cool down, and that'll go over a pie in just a second. So now I have the cool gravy over the top. As you can see, I haven't got it swimming, the beef swimming in there. So now I've got my lid on, I'm just going to crimp it up. So all that pastry from the edges, I've just brought over the top, crimped it up with my fingers, and now we're just going to get some egg yolk on there just to brush it off and get it into the oven. So that's it all painted up, nice and glossy. I'm just going to be a little slit in the middle of it. This is just to allow the steam to escape basically. So right in the center, nice 2-inch slit there basically. Now that's going to go to the bottom shelf, and that's in there at 180 for about 30 to 35 minutes. Have it, folks, a beautiful Guinness beef and mushroom pie with a wholemeal crust and a little bit of extra gravy.